I have to say, probably the most anticipated game this year has to be Battlefield 6. And as far as that game goes, we're going to cover all of the story of that game and dive into all of the intricate details of that story once we get some, because we haven't received a story trailer or anything like that. But before Battlefield 6 was Battlefield 6, EA and DICE created many Battlefield games, and eventually a bunch of those developers from those studios left and created a new studio by the name of Embark. And a couple of years ago, they released their first game, known as The Finals. Now, you may or may not know this, but The Finals has a very interesting, intricate, and in-depth backstory about how it came to be and what you are watching here actually is. Now, later this year, we are getting another game from Embark. This might actually be my most anticipated game this year. It's an extraction PvPvE shooter known as Arc Raiders. Now, this has a completely different story altogether. Whereas The Finals looks bright and vibrant and futuristic, Arc Raiders looks dark, dingy. It takes place in a rust belt and it looks completely post-apocalyptic. However, these two games by the same studio are hiding something, and that is what I wanted to dive into today. Because believe it or not, the two games that you just saw, I truly believe are in the same universe and are actually a part of the exact same story. I know this is a weird one, and I told you I was going to be diving into a bunch of different video games, different stories. So if you want to see a specific game, let me know down in the comments. And if you like seeing other video game story other than just Call of Duty or Battlefield, hit the like button. It shows me you want to see more videos like this. But to understand how these stories are connected, I first have to give you a little bit of background on what both game stories actually are to begin with. So The Finals takes place about 75 years in the future, around the year 2100. Now, The Finals isn't real. Well, it is real, but it's not real. You see, it's the largest virtual reality game show. So basically, everyone who you're seeing within The Finals is not real. They are avatars for people who are sitting in a headset outside of this actual world. Now, this is a small portion of what they call the metascape, so kind of like the metaverse that we know from the real world. Now, The Finals is such a big thing that these people are competing in this game show to win generous prizes who are donated by sponsors, and each individual season of The Finals has new sponsors. However, the entire thing of The Finals is owned by a company called Multico. Now, this is going to be very, very important. Now, throughout the rest of the story, there is a group called the CNS, and essentially this is what they're doing.
The clock is counting down, and the Retros need to make a move to avoid getting knocked out.
Indeed, the socialites are defending hard and has... are you messing with the stream?
There seems to be...
Are you ready for something else? We are CNS, and we are here to change the game.
Now, CNS specifically states to seek the truth, you must look beyond the walls. Now, we will come back to that one in a minute, but this kind of sets up what The Finals actually is, this virtual reality world. Now, let's move over to Arc Raiders. The story of Arc Raiders takes place in the year 2180, so 80 years after the events of The Finals. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, we're going to start out with this story in an underground community known as Speranza. Now, this is a community of people living kind of in harmony, underground, protected to what is on the surface. Now, you may be wondering, what is the surface? Well, it's an area called Toledo, aka what used to be Italy. Now, reason why I say what used to be Italy is because what happened years before was a total global environmental collapse. Now, the surface of the Earth is patrolled by a group of basically robots known as the Ark. Now, where they came from is a little bit of a mystery, but we have an answer to that and it actually ties directly into the finals. Because you see, in Tech Test Weekend 2 of Arc Raiders, there was a helmet found on the ground, and on the back of it, it said Alpha Acta and showed the logo that you are seeing here.
Absolutely. So our advanced olfactory targeting system is designed to track strong, threatening odors.
Well, as it turns out, this is actually one of the sponsors within the finals. It is a family business settling in defense. They were the official sponsor of season 6 of the finals, which was kind of going on around the same time, and they're responsible for home defense and civilian security solutions. But this weathered old helmet was found in Arc Raiders. And the crossovers didn't end there. You see, looking at this one, you may be looking at it and be like, hey, those logos are not exactly the same. I can't quite make that out. Well, it's a good thing we got more of them then. You see, in a recent trailer for Arc Raiders, we see this billboard put up, and it says Jianzhu Romanga. I am probably pronouncing that wrong. However, this is once again another sponsor from within the finals. But here is the interesting part. If you look at what is written over top, it says Bugiardi, which is Italian for liars. Now, all of these so far you could look at and be like, well, maybe these are Easter eggs that Embark just put into the game, but these are all on purpose because this is promotional material for the Rollerbot, one of the robots or Arc robots that are in the game. Well, that logo behind it is, well, this.
We are glad to do the dirty work. Power is power, and you want it.
That is another sponsor from the finals by the name of Dyson, which clearly is now the company we know that made a Rollerbot, which is one of the Arc robots cleansing the surface in Arc Raiders. So now, let me explain the theory of what I think happened between the two games. You see, when we were talking about the finals, I left a little bit out. You see, when CNS tried hacking the finals, they ended up finding out something a little bit interesting. The finals is a sentient AI program capable of actually defending itself, which means the entirety of the Metascape has started to become sentient. In other words, AI had already started to become sentient. Now, when we look at Arc Raiders, it takes place about 80 years later, quite a long period of time. But when we start to look at some of the specific locations, for example, the spaceports that can be found around the waste within Arc Raiders, these were built in what was called the Exodus area, where humans were trying to escape and exit the Earth during the Great Collapse. In other words, when the environment was falling apart, the ultra-rich were escaping the planet. Now, who were the ultra-rich? They were the people behind the finals. They were the people behind the Metascape, and specifically the sponsors. Now, why is the surface of the Earth so barren, and why do only the Raiders go up in order to get supplies for the people within Speranza? The answer to that is the robots, the Arc robots specifically, which we now know, some of which at least, have been created by some of the sponsors of the finals. And we also know, as shown in the trailer and at the beginning of the game, these robots are shot down to Earth from outer space. Who's in outer space? The rich. Also, how do we know this? You see, in one of the very first footages of gameplay that we saw of Arc Raiders, there's a billboard off to the left-hand side, which once again has some writing in Italian. And this graffiti translates to "Only the rich leave this shit." In other words, whoever was writing this is saying only the rich people within the area were able to escape from this mess. So essentially what we learn from this is that through the finals and through the Metascape rose to the top a very high class of people, the ultra rich. And from there, the world started to descend into an environmental collapse, at which point the ultra rich ended up escaping from the area. And for some reason, and this is going to be the big question which is eventually answered through Arc Raiders, is they're sending these robots down to Earth. The question is why? Is it to cover up a mystery, to cover up something that the ultra rich did, to extract minerals, to do something, to wipe out the rest of humanity on Earth? That is the question that will be answered the further we get into Arc Raiders. But for now, that is how Arc Raiders in the finals, at least lore-wise, are connected. Or at least that's what I think. If you have another theory, feel free to let me know down in the comments.